Yes, yes. Welcome to the ancient world of tabletop games. I am Agamemnon from the historical documentary Time Bandits. This is a report from a fugitive. This time I'll talk into the microphone that's switched on instead of the one that's switched off. Luckily, the other microphone across the way still caught my commentaries on earlier videos. In returning to the business, nay, the industry of painting figures, I knew I'd consider all those things that must be done before painting even begins. Do you even need figures at all? If the answer is yes, then prepare for battle. Buy figures. What kind should you buy? Cut-price ones, bargain models, stuff that you pick up in the sales. Role-playing is as expensive a hobby as your bank account can stand. If you make do on free digital rulebooks and the roll of a few six-sided dice, your hobby is as cheap as it gets. Gaming needn't cost a bomb. The purchase of expensive hardback rulebooks will see you through many an adventure. As you play through more games, the value wrung from the rulebooks grows. Adding figures to that stew will greatly increase the cost of the production. Figures, whether plastic, resin or metal, always cost gasp money and add gasp expenses to the bill. Paintbrushes, paint and modelling tools load themselves into the capsule and blast off, skyrocketing the overall cost. Before we even get into the business of painting, though, there's the bit about preparing your figures. Plastic and resin miniatures present problems and solutions that never apply in the case of metal figures. Let's dry fit a figure. You can and should dry fit metal figures too, but in this video I'm dealing with a resin model. It's a Reaper Miniatures Red Dragon, made for the Pathfinder RPG, but there's every reason to use it in a pulp action adventure game, science fiction, you name it. And we needn't paint it red at all. This figure was distorted during the manufacturing process, leading the dragon's tail to dangle below the level of the figure's base, and that's no good. The problem is easily fixed using hot water. I no longer casually display hot water on camera. Here's some archive footage taken during the Second Musketeer War, fought on the Feast of St. Gygax, and that is a role-playing fact. Distortion in a plastic figure is almost always fixable. Metal figures live in their own underground world with different rules. Dip the warped plastic or resin piece in warm water, let the shape return to the original factory setting, and then dip the piece quickly in cold water to set. That simple process should see you through. Usually the warping straightens out on contact with the warm water. You might have to apply gentle pressure to complete the process before dipping in cold water. The tail distortion was an easy fix. This dragon is a flexible figure. I find that larger, harder resin models are less prone to warping, which is good, as they are far less likely to take to the quick hot water fix. In an imperfect production, a model leaves the mould with pieces of flash around it. These weak, flimsy sheets or blotches are leaks. Occasionally, flash is difficult to spot. It is easy to remove with modelling tools, knives, tweezers, cutters, you name it. When dry-fitting miniature pieces, flash or imprecise mould lines get in the way. That's when the knives come out. Err on the side of caution when trimming. Once the imperfections are dealt with, make a decision. Use blue tack to dry fit the parts, or don't. In this case, I decided against blue tack. It's handy for temporarily supporting large heavy pieces just long enough for you to see how the miniature looks. But this dragon is so light and well made that I felt the fiddliness of blue tack wasn't worth the effort. A dip in hot water and the tail is no longer a problem. Now I easily sit the main body on a flat surface without risk of toppling. Inspect the joints, look at arm and wing sockets, decide on the marching order. I felt the wing socket was so tightly formed that I could balance that wing in there quite easily, and there it goes. No glue, no blue tack, no wires, no pins, no green screen effects. It helps that a lot of thought went into the weight distribution. That's not just about making the dragon look dramatic. Obviously, I'm throwing everything in there at once, adding the arm and the head, but the gluing of this model isn't an instant affair, even if I decide to use superglue. The arm popped out while I tried fitting the top of the head on, but that's my usual clumsiness for you. This raises a point. If you are clumsier than I am, there's little left to do. Get an adult to fix your model and roll your dice. Have a team on standby to tie shoelaces and handle doors. Even if you are as clumsy as I am, look, it only took a few shots to grab these images. My flailing limbs were on their best behaviour. With the last wing in place, I felt I'd achieved something. Not the completion of the model, but that's a separate topic. Do you glue the whole model together before painting, or paint large swathes of the model first before fitting? The rule of thumb is simple. Check for the fiddliest, most awkward part of the model that overhangs another area on a separate piece. Ask yourself if you could paint in there with ease. If you answer no, paint first and glue later. I find that I can glue most models together before painting. Occasionally I'll leave one awkward piece separate for painting and fix it in place after the war is over. What you paint with is your business. Acrylic, enamel, oil, ink. Construction is also your business. Superglue is faster than a speeding bullet, and with a well-fitting model like this, there'll be no lasting complications, nothing to slip or trip over as you superglue the wing into its socket, say. But superglue sets hard in a brittle way. Sharp taps and knocks will send pieces flying off. Very smooth plastic surfaces are suspect. You may want to rough them up very slightly before applying superglue. This model is, as I've said, flexible, and I'd opt for epoxy resin. Yes, you need to brace the pieces, balancing them on solid objects and using other tricks or specialized tools. Here's a model holder that's used for painting purposes, but it has flexible arms and clamps built in to brace pieces. The pieces fit so well that there's no need to fill gaps in the moulding with modelling putty. Expect to use putty for metal figures, and this dragon is so light that I wouldn't bother pinning anything. Pinning is evil. Drill a thin hole into the model, and drill another hole in the piece that fits in. Glue a metal pin in one hole, let that set, then glue the pinned piece into the main model. Fiddly. A sub-hobby within modelling. Awkward to fix if you get it all wrong. I'm a fan of not pinning if you can avoid it. When it comes to metal models, particularly large dragons, and this resin model is not a large dragon figure, you'll almost certainly have to pin wings into the main body and secure long winding tails that way as well. The metal pieces are so heavy that they'll put too much stress on a simple glue bond, especially a superglue one. When it comes to imperfect joins, blue tack has another purpose. Use cold blue tack to gain a solid impression of the join and see where the imperfections are in spots you wouldn't see with the piece in place. Then, if you must use modelling putty like milliput or green stuff, you'll have a good estimate of the amount you need to put in there, and where. Bear in mind that putty shrinks on curing, though I've never had significant problems with that effect. Set your pieces out, inspect for flash, trim excess away, but do so with caution. Dry fit. Use blue tack if that makes your job easier. Ensure that all the blue tack is out of there before you reach for the glue. Decide if it's easier to glue everything in place and then paint. Glue some of it, maybe even none of it, before painting. Then choose your glue weapon. Superglue for speed. Epoxy with its slothful drying time. Don't confuse drying with curing. The difference between cured superglue and cured epoxy is roughly 2 days, and it's a day for the superglue to cure. So don't paint anything as soon as it is glued, not even a model constructed with superglue. Leave the superglued model for a day and the epoxied model for 3 days. Set up a miniature production line, place your figures out, trim flash, glue a few pieces, check yesterday's output, start lining things up for painting. Modelling, putty, pins, splints and other metal rods. It's a lot to take in. You can watch as many videos as you can, going blue in the face. Reminder, work in a well-lit, well-ventilated area free of pets and small children. The only way to construct and paint models is to construct and paint models. Get stuck in. Make your mistakes early. If you superglue a head-on front to back, it's possible to prise it off within seconds or tap it free within a few hours. Buy superglue that comes with a solvent bottle for weakening and freeing up your mistakes. Then it's on to storage, working out where you can keep your assembled figure with its awkward shape without bending or breaking anything. As usual, that's another story.